There are chance encounters that seem like fate is mocking you, yet they are nothing more than reminders that the past has never truly slept. After 7 years of running away from love and responsibility, a wealthy businessman suddenly comes face to face with the woman who once loved him with everything she had. Now a doctor, a single mother. Amid the cold white light of the hospital, amid the innocent laughter of a 6-year-old child, he must confront the most excellent choice of his life: to keep living in empty glitter, or to learn how to love and stay. This is not only a love story found again, but also a journey against fear, prejudice, and the struggle to build a family out of broken pieces. That morning, the sky over Chicago carried a heavy shade of leaden gray. October in the city often dragged along gusts of cold wind that pierced through every corner of the streets, forcing the rich and the poor to huddle deeper into their coats. Ethan Walker stepped out of his luxurious SUV with a familiar demeanor, neat, steady, composed. Yet deep in his eyes lingered a weariness he could no longer conceal. He was used to mornings like this, appointments with doctors, blood tests, heart checkups, everything blending like another meeting on his packed schedule. The only difference this time was that he had no idea this visit would pull him back into the past he had spent 7 years trying to bury. Lakeside Medical Center sat right on the edge of Lake Michigan, where the dim light of the morning sun filtered through wide panes of glass, creating an atmosphere that was both clear and cold. The hospital was renowned for its top cardiology team, a strange coincidence, since Ethan's own heart had long carried a fracture that would never heal. As he stepped through the automatic doors, the sharp scent of disinfectant hit him, familiar to the point of discomfort. The echo of his polished leather shoes tapped across the glossy stone floor, blending with loudspeaker announcements, the rattle of metal carts, and the clipped exchanges of nurses. "Mr. Walker, please proceed to the cardiology department," the receptionist's voice called out, polite but distant. Ethan nodded, slipping his phone into his coat pocket. He assumed this morning would be just another tedious routine, until his eyes caught the plaque on the door ahead. Dr. Maya Johnson, Cardiology. Ethan froze. His heart, so accustomed to the pounding rhythm of negotiations, stock jumps, million-dollar decisions, suddenly staggered, skipping a beat. That name, a name that had once been fire, a whole universe, the very thing he had tried to forget by drowning himself in work, money, transatlantic flights. Maya Johnson. That name couldn't possibly be here. It couldn't appear by chance, yet it was there, carved into gleaming metal, cold and merciless like a sentence handed down. His hand tightened around the door handle, damp with sweat despite the chill of the hospital. He hadn't seen that face for 7 years, 2,445 days. He had calculated every part of his life, from cash flow to shares, but never this. Meeting Maya again, in the very place he least expected. And then the door opened, and there she was. Maya stood framed in the doorway, her long white coat immaculate, professional. Her hair was pinned up, revealing a radiant face with glowing brown skin and deep, fathomless eyes, the same eyes that once looked at him as though they held the entire universe. Time hadn't dulled her. Instead, it had given her a new strength, steady, mature, like a woman who had weathered storms and carved out her place in the world. Once, she had been a dream-filled student bent over anatomy textbooks in their tiny apartment. Now she was a full-fledged cardiologist, exactly as she had told him she would be. During those sleepless nights when she whispered her ambitions to him, Maya saw him too. For a heartbeat, the entire world froze. The clipboard slipped from her hand and clattered against the tiles, the sound ringing down the hall. She stood still, her eyes wide, then narrowing shock, anger, a flash of longing, and the urge to push him away, all fighting at once across her face. Ethan's breath caught. He had imagined hundreds of ways they might meet again, but none looked anything like this. And then, a clear, sweet voice broke the tension. "Mama, I finished my drawing." A small girl dashed out from the play corner, holding a paper splashed with crayon colors. She stopped, lifting wide eyes to stare curiously at Ethan. She was about 6 years old, with warm brown skin like Maya's, but her eyes shone bright green, the same eyes Ethan saw in his mirror each morning. His stomach lurched. The ground seemed to vanish beneath him. That little girl was his daughter. Maya moved quickly, kneeling to gather her child close. Her voice was steady, but Ethan could hear the tremor beneath it. "That's beautiful, Leah. Sit and finish your drawing. Mama has to work now." Leah smiled, skipped back to her corner, and locked the two adults in suffocating silence. Ethan swallowed hard, throat raw. Thousands of apologies, excuses, and memories jostled inside him, but none escaped his lips. At last, Maya broke it. "Mr. Walker," she said, voice sharp and cold as steel, "please step into room 3 for your exam." Mr. Walker, distant, formal, as if they had never known each other at all. The words cut deeper than any accusation. Ethan followed, each step heavy, his chest storming with guilt and confusion. He passed down the hallway behind her, the click of her shoes steady, merciless. A part of him wanted to turn and run, to vanish like he had 7 years ago. But this time his feet felt nailed to the floor, forcing him to walk into the stark white room where his heart would be laid bare, not by a scalpel, but by the gaze of the woman he had once loved more than life itself. Room 3 glowed harshly under fluorescent lights, yet it felt like a prison to Ethan. He sat on the exam bed, hands twisting together, unable to tear his eyes from Maya. She opened his file, her hands trembling slightly, though her voice remained calm and detached, so cold it sent a shiver down his spine. "Take off your coat. I'll check your heart rate and blood pressure." Ethan slowly unbuttoned his coat. Every motion felt weighted, like stripping away the armor he had worn for 7 years. He sat still as Maya pressed the stethoscope to his chest, his breath hitched not from the chill of the instrument, but from the faint scent of her hair, a floral note he knew better than anything. Memories surged, mornings in their tiny apartment, Maya laughing in an oversized t-shirt, her hair tumbling loose, coffee steaming on the table. A different life, a different world. "Your heart is racing," Maya noted, eyes fixed anywhere but his. "Probably because of the doctor," Ethan rasped. The words made her pause. Her eyes flickered to his for an instant, pain and fury tangled in their depths. Then she turned away, scribbling quickly. "Spare the jokes," she said, her voice sharp. "You're here for medical reasons, not for the past." "The past?" Ethan echoed, a bitter smile twisting his lips. "There hasn't been a day in 7 years that I didn't think about it." Her pen stilled, fingers blanching around it. She breathed, forcing herself to continue as though she hadn't heard. Leah's laughter rang out from the waiting room, bright and carefree. Ethan turned toward the sound, his chest tightening. His daughter, 6 years old, 6 years he had missed. Birthdays, tears, mornings before school, all of it, gone. What had Maya told her? Did Leah know who her father was? Did she know why he had never been there? He wanted to ask, to shout, "Does Leah know I'm her father?" But he knew now wasn't the moment. Maya stood firmly between him and the truth, a wall he couldn't yet break through. As she measured his blood pressure, Maya leaned closer. Ethan saw her hands, those hands that had once tangled in his during nights filled with dreams, now steady, cold, calloused by years of surgeries. These were the hands of a woman who had survived 7 years alone, raising a child while carving out her career. Looking at them, the weight of his regret pressed down harder than any burden he had ever carried. "Your blood pressure is elevated," Maya said, removing the cuff. "Probably stress. I'll order additional blood work and an EKG." "Stress?" Ethan gave a hollow laugh. "Sure. Seeing the woman I left behind. Realizing I have a 6-year-old daughter I've never met that might raise it a little." Maya spun on him, fury blazing in her eyes at last. "Don't you dare speak as if you're the victim, Ethan. You made your choice. You disappeared without a word. You left me alone with a child inside me while I called you dozens of times in vain." Her voice cracked, but she did not let the tears fall. Ethan bowed his head. He had no defense. Every word she spoke was accurate. Silence stretched. The hum of the air conditioner, the ticking clock. At last, Ethan's voice broke the stillness, low and trembling. "Maya. Leah. She is my daughter, isn't she?" The question hung between them like a bomb. Maya's eyes locked on his for a long moment, wet with unshed tears, yet unwavering. Then she turned away, her voice flat. Blood work at 9 tomorrow morning. Don't be late. She opened the door and left him alone in the glaring white room, where every wall whispered of 7 years of loss, 7 years of mistakes, 7 years of absence. Ethan sat with his head in his hands, the world's weight collapsing in on him. Leah's laughter rang again out in the hall, bright, innocent. The sound sliced through him like a blade. Sweet, because it proved she was real. Cruel, because it reminded him he had missed every moment of her life. Ethan Walker, a man who once thought he had everything, finally understood he had nothing. Ethan sat motionless for a long while in the exam room, but eventually he had to step back out. The hallway's white light made him dizzy, both real and dreamlike. The calling of patient names, the loudspeaker announcements, the hurried footsteps of nurses, all blended into a strange din. Everything was too familiar, yet now felt hollow, because his mind spun around two images: Maya's cold eyes and Leah's carefree laughter. Maya waited for him at the end of the corridor, still composed like a doctor. Only the way her hands were clasped revealed some tension. When he approached, she lifted her head, her tone indifferent. "We'll continue with the remaining checks." He wanted to say 100 things, apologies, memories, questions about Leah, but the distance in Maya's gaze made him swallow them all. He fell silent and followed her, like a student being led to the board to face the most challenging test of his life. Maya put on gloves and prepared the equipment for the electrocardiogram. The air felt dense, so quiet that the rustle of paper sounded like thunder. Ethan sat, unbuttoning his shirt to expose a tight, anxious chest. Maya affixed each electrode to his skin with quick, precise movements. Yet Ethan still felt the faint tremor of her hand when it touched him. A tiny tremble, but he recognized it immediately because he had known this body better than anyone. "Take a deep breath," Maya said, eyes fixed on the monitor. Her voice was cold, but there was a catch to it. Ethan inhaled, then exhaled. On the screen, his heartbeat ran fast. "It seems my heart never got used to being near you," he blurted, half in jest, half as confession. Maya looked up, anger flashing in her eyes. "Don't bring those lines in here, Ethan. This is my workplace, not a place for you to perform cheap memories." Her words struck him like a punch to the gut. He nodded, forced a smile. "Yes, you're right. But still, I haven't stopped thinking about you. One day I'll tell everything. Why I left, why I chose wrongly. But please, don't look at me as if I'm just a stranger patient." Maya tightened her grip on the pen, scribbling a few lines in the file. Her eyes were wet, but she turned away at once, voice icy. "You are exactly a stranger patient, and I will keep that boundary." Ethan clearly felt the invisible wall she had built in that moment, a wall to protect herself and Leah. He understood, but it still made his chest ache. From the waiting room, Leah's voice rang out. "Mama, are you done? I'm hungry." Ethan felt his heart wrench. Just one innocent sentence, and it carved the 7-year gulf. He had been absent from his child's life. He swallowed, wanting to tell Maya, "She's my daughter, right? Let me hear her call me father." But Maya snapped the file shut, her tone firm. "Finished. I'll send the results to you through the system. For now, you can go out." Ethan stood and readjusted his clothes. He looked at Maya for a long time, the eyes, the posture. She was still, the woman who once made him believe love could overcome anything. But now she only showed him coldness, like a blade cutting into memory. He opened the door and stepped out. Leah immediately ran up, thrusting her new drawing forward, a house with wings, flying in the sky. "Uncle, this is the flying house. That way, nobody has to leave each other." Ethan's heart quivered. He felt suffocated. The 6-year-old had unconsciously sought a solution to her own tragedy, a house that could fly so her father would never disappear. He knelt, lightly touching the drawing, forcing back a sob. "Wonderful, Leah. Very beautiful," he whispered. Maya stood behind them, eyes rimmed with tears, but she quickly turned away as she gently took her daughter's hand. "Let's go home, sweetheart." Ethan watched the two of them walk out of the hallway. Each step they took seemed to tread upon his heart. He knew that from this moment, the old wound would not only bleed, it would drown him in the storm he now had to survive. And this time, he could not, would not, run away. Ethan lingered in the hospital lobby long after Maya and Leah had left. People hurried by, but everything had become a faded blur to him. He felt alien among the crowd, like someone flung back into a cruel reality. He still held the appointment slip in his hand, the line 9 a.m. Blood test. A cold reminder that this was not over. He would have to come back, face it again. His watch told him it was past noon. He drifted out, the cold wind off Lake Michigan slapping his face and bringing a momentary clarity. He opened his phone. Dozens of emails and messages from the board lit the screen, along with a missed call from Richard Caldwell. On any typical day, he would have answered immediately. But now all those multi-million-dollar figures seemed meaningless. The only thing consuming his mind was Leah's eyes, the eyes that reflected him, yet were strangers because he had never been allowed to look at them as a father. He remembered every tiny detail of the exam room, Maya's inhalation to steady herself, the way she called him Mr. Walker, cold as a knife, as if they'd never had a past. Each small gesture was imprinted on his heart, making it clench sharply. Not because she hated him, but because she had once loved him so fiercely that her hatred now was all the more brutal, and her silence about Leah hurt more than any accusation. Instead of calling his driver, Ethan chose to walk down Michigan Avenue, hoping the cold wind would clear his thoughts. He passed luxury shops and crowded cafes, and stopped before Harbor Cafe, the old place. The glass was still fogged as it had been 7 years ago. Inside, the chairs were still slightly askew, the music the same. He stood there, and memories flooded. The first time he saw Maya, her hair falling over anatomy texts, the moment she looked up and showed him how to rescue a water-damaged laptop. Her voice then had been warm, half-joking. "If something's broken, try putting it in a bowl of rice, maybe it'll live again." Ethan chuckled to himself, but the smile vanished quickly. The laptop lived, his love did not. His feet carried him on. He kept talking to May, imagining saying, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was a coward. I was afraid of losing everything. And ultimately, I lost what mattered most." But in reality, facing her, he had been mute, only hearing the scratching of her pen, listening to her voice issue commands as to a stranger patient. The phone rang again. This time, he answered. Caldwell's voice was sharp. "Ethan, where did you disappear this morning? Yamamoto Group is waiting on a response to the $800 million offer. This is a golden opportunity, we can't miss it." Ethan closed his eyes, exhaustion sweeping over him. $800 million. Many would dream of it. But in that moment, it paled beside a hug from Leah, beside even a softened look from Maya. He replied quietly, interrupting Caldwell. "I'll call back later." He hung up, unconcerned about a multi-million-dollar deal for the first time in his life. By evening, he drove back to his penthouse on the 40th floor, where everything was glossy and convenient, but empty. He opened the liquor cabinet, but his hand halted midway. Instead of pouring, he pulled a secret drawer and took out an old box he hadn't dared open in 7 years. Inside were a few photos with Maya, a simple birthday dinner, an outing by the lake, and a short video Maya once sent. His fingers trembling, he pressed play. The screen showed Maya in an old t-shirt, hair messy, smiling radiantly. Her voice choked yet happy. "Ethan, I have good news. I'm pregnant. I know we're young, I know you're busy, but I've never felt so happy. I couldn't wait to tell you in person." The screen went dark. Ethan collapsed, clutching his head, a sob bursting out. He had missed that moment when Maya needed him most, when he could have become a father. Instead, he chose contracts and flights to California, choosing to vanish. And now the price was 7 years of separation, a child who didn't know her father. That night, Ethan did not sleep. He stood by the window, watching Chicago's lights blink. This city was once proof of his success. Now it was a mirror of emptiness. In the howling wind, he heard Maya's words echo. "You are exactly a stranger, patient." And beneath that, Leah's laughter in his memory, clear but questioning. He knew, if he did nothing, he would remain a stranger. And this time, he could not accept that. 7 years ago, autumn in Chicago looked entirely different. warmer, brighter at least in Ethan's memory. He had been just a 8-year-old with empty pockets, but a mind full of ideas. And then, on a rainy afternoon, he rushed into Harbor Cafe on Michigan Avenue, where fate quietly redrew his life. The cafe was small, its wooden chairs chipped, its ceiling strung with flickering yellow bulbs that cast a glow both old and cozy. The smell of roasted coffee filled the air, mingling with the chatter of students. Ethan, soaked through and clutching a rain-damaged laptop, slumped at a table near the door with a frustrated sigh. A female voice spoke, soft but certain. "Put it in a bowl of rice. Might come back to life." He looked up. The girl at the following table kept her eyes on a thick textbook, her curly hair loosely tied, her face tilted under the light. Her remark was practical, with a hint of wit. "Really?" Ethan asked, half skeptical. "Depends on how badly you've treated it," she replied, still not looking up. Ethan laughed. From that moment, everything changed. He asked to share her table to charge his laptop, and soon their conversation stretched 3 hours from street food to career dreams. She introduced herself as Maya Johnson, a final-year med student aspiring to be a cardiologist. He spoke of his budding software startup and his ambition to change the world with technology. Their dreams were different, but the same fire of belief burned bright in both pairs of eyes. Time after that flew. They dated at the Museum of Science and Industry, where Maya eagerly explained how the heart pumped blood, while Ethan was too busy gazing at her to care about the model. They rented a tiny apartment near campus, cramped, but brimming with laughter. Mornings, Maya brewed coffee. Evenings, Ethan pulled all-nighters over business plans while she studied nearby, sometimes tossing him a tricky anatomy question to tease. On exhausted nights, they sat on the balcony, sharing cheap instant noodles and discussing the future. Ethan promised, "I'll build a strong company, then we'll have a beautiful house, with kids running around the yard." Maya leaned on his shoulder, whispering, "I just need you there. Nothing else matters." But that promise never came true. A year later, Ethan's startup began drawing attention. Richard Caldwell, the famed investor, arrived with an offer. Massive capital, international connections, global expansion. But the condition was absolute commitment, no distractions of any kind. Caldwell's eyes were cold as he stressed, "This company will be your wife, child, everything. Can you handle that pressure?" Ethan nodded. That choice marked the turning point. He dove headlong into work, endless travel, non-stop meetings. Maya still supported him, but the distance widened. She called him after midnight shifts. He often picked up hurriedly, then hung up mid-sentence. She waited with dinner. He disappeared into sudden flights. One night, Ethan came home to find Maya asleep, her hand resting lightly on her lower belly. He thought it a random gesture. He almost woke her to tell her about a new deal, but seeing her peaceful face, he couldn't. He left a note the next morning. "I have to go. This is an opportunity I can't miss. Please understand. I love you." Then he vanished from Chicago. Maya's calls and messages flooded his phone 3 weeks later, pleading, angry, tearful. Ethan never replied. He convinced himself that silence was best, that Maya deserved someone stable, not a man obsessed with chasing success. He didn't know that Maya was carrying their child. Maya remembered vividly the moment she discovered she was pregnant. A cold March morning, sitting in their bathroom, staring at the 2 red lines on the test strip. Her heart pounded not from fear, but from a joy that spread through her whole body. She wanted to call Ethan immediately and shout it from the balcony, but when she stepped out, the apartment was empty. His clothes were gone from the closet, his laptop was missing from the desk, and that single note was on the pillow. She read it repeatedly, each word cutting deeper. "I have to go. This is an opportunity I can't miss. Please understand. I love you. No return date, no explanation, just disappearance." The weeks that followed were despair. She called endlessly, left dozens of messages. She begged for an answer, a promise, even a sign that their love wasn't an illusion. But the phone remained silent. She worked night shifts at the hospital while battling morning sickness, studied through exhaustion, and endured the loneliness alone. At night, Maya curled up in the dark apartment, hand on her growing belly, tears flowing. She whispered to her child, "You'll be okay. Mama will take care of you. Even if Papa left, Mama will never leave you." Anger eventually replaced pain. Maya vowed never to collapse and to raise her child without needing anyone. She pushed through med school, passed the boards, entered residency, and became a cardiologist just as she had dreamed. Every step demanded sacrifice, but she never allowed herself to stop because Leah was there, her greatest gift, born of both love and betrayal. Meanwhile, in California, Ethan lived a different life. He buried himself in work, his companies skyrocketing under Caldwell's funding. Gleaming offices, shareholder meetings, flights to Tokyo, London, New York, all swept him along. But each night, when his luxury apartment door shut, emptiness swallowed him. He could close deals worth millions, but not call the only voice he longed to hear. He kept Maya's messages, her sobs, her anger. Some nights, he replayed them, his chest aching. But still, he didn't pick up the phone. He feared that if he heard her, he'd break, abandon it all, and run back. He told himself that would be selfish, destroying his one chance at success. 7 years later, he was a millionaire, with a penthouse overlooking Chicago, employees' respect, and his name on the list of America's top 500 entrepreneurs. Yet the pride was hollow. He knew what he had traded away. And now, standing before Maya in her white coat, hearing Leah's laughter, he finally understood how steep the price was. Back in the present, that night, Ethan sat in his penthouse with a glass of water, gazing out over the city. Each street lamp, each lit window made him think of Maya and Leah. Somewhere in a small apartment, they were eating dinner together, perhaps Leah asking about homework, Maya smoothing her daughter's hair before bed. A simple life, but one that held everything he longed for. He opened his laptop, but instead of spreadsheets, he clicked on an old folder named Maya. Inside were photos, by Lake Michigan, a burnt pancake breakfast, playful text messages. He looked at each, his chest tightening. He asked himself, was it too late to return? Could Maya ever forgive him? And Leah, could she accept a father who had appeared after 7 years of absence? Part of him wanted to give up, but the memory of Leah's eyes, her words about a flying house so no one ever has to leave, twisted like a knife in his heart. Ethan knew if he didn't fight this time, he would lose them forever. He closed the laptop, stood, and stared into the mirror. The man staring back wasn't just millionaire Ethan Walker. He was the coward who once ran away. But he was also someone who still had a chance, perhaps the last chance, to make things right. And this time, he swore to himself, he would not run. The next morning, Ethan returned to Lakeside Medical Center earlier than scheduled. He circled the parking lot twice, unsure if he was there for the blood test or for another chance to see his daughter. At last, he entered the lobby, clutching the appointment slip, heart pounding like a guilty man awaiting judgment. The hospital lobby was busier than the day before. Patients filled the chairs, announcements echoed over the speakers, and the smell of disinfectant mixed with coffee from a nearby kiosk. Ethan scanned the room, and his chest tightened immediately. In the children's play corner, Leah sat at a small table, surrounded by crayons and sheets of white paper. She was drawing intently, tongue poking slightly out in concentration. Her pigtails were uneven, making her look clumsy yet endearing. The sleeves of her dark pink coat were too long, as if Maya had hurriedly dressed her that morning. Leah looked up, noticed someone watching, and smiled brightly, waving. "Hi, mister," she called out. "You're the man from yesterday, the one with the fast heartbeat." Ethan chuckled, though his throat constricted. He walked over, kneeling to her level. "Yes, that's me. Yesterday you drew a flying house. What are you drawing today?" Leah held out her paper. On it was a strange contraption, part house, part spaceship, with wheels, propellers, and even heart-shaped windows. "This is the upgraded version," she explained excitedly. "It has jet engines, so the whole house can fly along if someone has to go far away. Nobody gets left behind anymore." Her innocent words squeezed Ethan's chest until it hurt. He nodded, voice trembling. "That's wonderful, Leah. You're definitely a future engineer. She beamed, tilting her head as her green eyes sparkled. Mister, do you have a family? The question startled him. He swallowed hard, forcing a smile. I had one once. Then I lost it. But now, I'm trying to find it again. Leah nodded wisely. Far beyond her years, Mama says, if someone makes a mistake, they must apologize for real. But sorry isn't enough, you must fix it and make it right. Do you know that? The world seemed to shrink into her eyes. A 6-year-old was teaching him a lesson in redemption. He longed to embrace her, to blurt the truth. It was your papa who was wrong, and papa will make it right. But his body felt rooted to the floor. He only smiled, whispering, I know, Leah. I'll remember. At the front desk, a nurse called out, Mr. Walker, lab room number 5. He rose hesitantly. Leah grabbed his hand. Will you come back? Tomorrow I'll show you the real robot I built at home. Ethan squeezed her tiny hand, overwhelmed with a strange, powerful tenderness. I'll come back. Every time. I promise. As he walked away, he turned back to see Leah still focused on coloring her flying machine. In that instant, Ethan knew that no matter if Maya forgave him or lost his company or fortune, he could never leave this child again. The lab was quieter than the bustling hallways. Ethan sat as the nurse drew his blood. The needle pierced his skin, but he hardly felt it. The real pain was elsewhere in his chest, where his heart reminded him he had missed the first 6 years of his daughter's life. When the nurse taped his arm, Ethan left the lab and didn't head straight for the exit. Instead, he returned to the play corner. Leah was still there, this time having built a mini-lab. Folded paper, Lego models, scraps arranged everywhere. You're back, she cheered, as if he had only stepped away for a moment. Want to see my homemade air filter? Ethan laughed. An air filter? Where'd you learn that? Mama says hospitals have lots of germs, so I made a machine to suck them all up. This is the fan, this is the tube, and this is the cotton filter. When it turns on, all the germs get trapped. Her little hands waved animatedly as she explained. Ethan sat on a child-sized chair, listening with a focus he rarely gave anyone. For that moment, he wasn't a millionaire businessman or a coward who once fled. He was just a man, enraptured by his daughter, the daughter he hadn't known existed. You're so smart, he said, voice thick. Leah tilted her head, curiosity in her green eyes. Do you have kids? If you did, you'd probably teach them to make machines like this, right? Ethan froze. He drew a deep breath and answered softly, I wish I did. If I did, I'd be so proud. Leah was quiet for a beat, then grinned. Why don't you play Papa for me today? Mama's busy with surgery, and I get bored sitting alone. The words nearly broke him. He wanted to shout, I really am your papa, but his throat locked. He only nodded, whispering, All right. Today I'll be your papa. Leah clapped her hands happily and pulled him into her new game. Together, they added parts to the flying house, brainstorming robots that could make sure people never feel sad. Ethan listened to every idea, his heart filling with a simple, unfamiliar joy. Time slipped away until an announcement echoed. Dr. Johnson, please report to surgery. Ethan started. Maya appeared at the end of the hall, dressed in scrubs, her eyes sharp and cautious at the sight of Leah chattering with him. Leah, pack up your things. The school car will be here soon, Maya said, calm but brisk. Yes, Mama. Leah obediently gathered her crayons, but turned to Ethan, whispering, Don't forget you have to see my real robot next time. Ethan nodded, eyes never leaving her. I won't forget. Maya walked closer, her gaze cutting straight into him, protective, accusing. I don't know what you're looking for here, Ethan, but Leah doesn't need chaos. She needs stability. I hope you understand that. He swallowed, answering quietly, She's incredible, Maya. You've raised her so well, but don't ask me to pretend I didn't see her. I can't. Maya froze briefly, then turned away, gripping Leah's hand. She said nothing more, leading her daughter toward the door. Leah waved one last time, her radiant smile nearly breaking him. Ethan stood there, fists clenched, heart burning with resolve. He would not let history repeat itself. This time, he would stay. No matter how many walls Maya built or what sacrifice it demanded, he would find a way to become part of Leah's life. And above all, he would prove to Maya that he was no longer the man who once ran away. The Chicago sky turned pale orange late afternoon, as the sun dipped low. Ethan sat in his car parked by the curb, eyes fixed on the dusty window of Harbor Cafe. After 7 years, the place looked the same. Low-hanging yellow lamps, scratched wooden tables, a chalk-written menu. But today, he wasn't stepping inside with the eager heart of a young man in love. He was walking in with the fear and regret of a man who had once been abandoned. That morning, he had sent Maya a short message. "Please, meet me at Harbor Cafe once," to say what was never said. Surprisingly, she agreed. Perhaps to close the past, to say her piece once and for all. Whatever the reason, Ethan knew this was his last chance. He entered, breath tight. The familiar air struck him. Strong coffee, the hum of grinders, the clink of spoons in porcelain cups. A group of students laughed in the corner, reminding him of 7 years ago when he and Maya had sat here, sketching out their future. Maya was already there, by the window. A grey coat wrapped around her, hair falling naturally, eyes fixed outside with blunt composure. As Ethan approached, she glanced up and gave the barest nod. No smile, no softening. He sat, the wooden chair feeling like stone. His hand found the latte waiting for him, foam dusted with cinnamon, the kind Maya once loved. He was about to speak, but Maya's voice came first, steady and cold. "Say what you want to say. I don't have much time." Ethan drew a deep breath, locking eyes with her. "Maya, I'm sorry. I know the word can't mend what's torn, but it's the only truth I can begin with. I was wrong to disappear. I chose the company instead of you, and I lost everything." Maya gave a bitter laugh, sipping her coffee. "Lost everything? From what I see, you gained an empire, a penthouse overlooking the city, millions in your account. Meanwhile, I was pregnant alone, working night shifts to survive, studying with a crying baby beside me. That's your loss?" Ethan's throat tightened, his hands burning around the cup. He fought to keep his voice level. "I won't deny material success, but it's hollow. Without you, without Leah, it's meaningless." Maya slammed her cup down, foam spilling over the rim. "You don't have the right to say her name. Leah doesn't know you. She grew up with me, with my love, not yours. You don't get to walk in now and claim her because you suddenly feel empty." Ethan bowed his head, eyes stinging. "I'm not here to take away what you've built. I only want to be there. To hear her talk about her flying house, to see her smile, to do anything, to make up for what I missed." Maya's shoulders trembled. After a long pause, she exhaled, voice quieter. "Do you know how often I called you 3 weeks after you left? 43. I remember each one, sick with nausea, shaking as I held the phone. And all I got was voicemail." Tears welled in Ethan's eyes. He nodded, whispering, "I know. I kept every message. I listened to them all. But I never picked up because I was afraid that if I heard your voice, I'd drop everything and come back. And I told myself that would be selfish. I was wrong." Maya gave a dry, bitter laugh. "Yes, you were wrong. But that's not what I need to hear now. I learned to live without you. I raised Leah myself. I don't need a man who thought walking away was the better choice." The cafe seemed to be quiet. The hiss of the espresso machine sounded like wind howling through cracks. Ethan longed to reach across the table, to hold her trembling hand, but he knew she'd pull away. "I don't expect forgiveness right away," Ethan said, his voice shaking. "I only ask for a chance, for Leah to know who her father is, to prove I've changed." Maya looked at him, her deep brown eyes flickering with conflict. For a fleeting moment, he saw the girl from years ago who had trusted him completely and dreamed of a family. But the armor returned quickly. "Chances aren't things you demand. You threw yours away." They sat in silence. Jazz played faintly from the overhead speakers. Spoons stirred in ceramic cups, but between them stretched a suffocating emptiness. Ethan felt as though even a drop of coffee could drown him. He drew a folded paper from his coat pocket, the drawing Leah had given him yesterday. The flying house has broad wings and 3 little windows inside. He placed it on the table, sliding it toward Maya. She drew this for me. Maya. Leah already imagined a way for no one to get left behind. A 6-year-old understood better than I did 7 years ago. Maya's eyes flickered. Her fingers brushed the green crayon smudges before she quickly pulled back, her voice sharp again. Don't use her to sway me. Leah isn't your tool for redemption. I know, Ethan murmured, head bowed. But seeing her shows me how strong you've been. You did it all alone. That makes me ashamed. But please, let me share it, even a little. I don't want Leah to think she wasn't worth her father staying. Maya closed her eyes. Memories surged, nights holding Leah as a newborn, asking why her father wasn't there. School days when Leah pointed at classmates with both parents while she stood alone. The anger burned again, but beneath it was exhaustion, 7 years of it. Do you know how many times Leah has asked me, Mama, why don't I have a papa like everyone else? Maya whispered, tears brimming. Do you know how many stories I had to invent to protect her heart? That Papa had to go far away. That maybe Papa was an astronaut in space. When the truth was simple. Papa left. Ethan's fists clenched, nails digging deep. Don't say that. I never wanted to leave her. I was just stupid, selfish, letting fear and ambition win. But I swear, from today on, I will never turn my back again. Maya met his eyes, torn. Then she sighed, wiping tears, her strength returning. Words are easy, Ethan. I don't believe them. I believe actions. If you want to prove yourself, stay. Be consistent. Don't disappear again. Leah doesn't need a ghost for a father. Ethan nodded firmly, his voice resolute. I'll stay even if it costs me everything. The company, the money, the reputation, I don't care. The only thing I want is you and Leah. For a heartbeat, Maya froze. A faint flicker of light stirred in her eyes, the remnant of a trust once extinguished. But quickly, she turned away, her voice rough. Don't promise unless you mean it. I won't let my daughter be hurt again. Ethan leaned back, exhaling hard. He knew the road ahead was long, fraught with trials, but at least this wasn't a slammed door. Maya had left a small crack open, and he would spend the rest of his life pushing through it. Outside the window, night had fallen, streetlights spilling gold over rain-damp sidewalks. Ethan looked at Maya, weighed down but with a fragile ember of hope. He knew this meeting had not brought forgiveness, but it had given something more important, a chance to begin again, even from broken pieces. When they stood to leave, Maya kept her distance. Yet Ethan understood after 7 years they had finally sat at the same table, faced each other, spoken words long unsaid, and in his pocket, Leah's flying house had become his silent vow he would not leave again. That weekend, Ethan sat in his car, parked just a few blocks from Maya's home. He had never felt nervous like this, not when signing multi-million-dollar contracts or standing on stage to accept awards. The nervousness today was different. He was about to enter the world of a 6-year-old child, a world he should have belonged to from the beginning. Maya had agreed, reluctantly, after their meeting at Harbor Cafe. She had said bluntly, Leah wants to invite you over. I won't stop her, but I'll be there. And if you hurt her even once, it ends. Ethan nodded, treating it like the most important contract of his life. He stepped out of the car, carrying a large box. Inside was a children's robot building kit he had ordered overnight. When Maya opened the door, her eyes scanned him warily, but she said nothing and stepped aside. Ethan nodded in greeting and entered the small but warm apartment. Leah came running out, hair tied in a hurry, socks mismatched. "Uncle Ethan," she cried, and Ethan's heart nearly leapt from his chest. "Uncle," sweet, but painful. "Hello, Leah," he smiled, hiding his emotions. "I brought you a surprise." Her green eyes widened when she saw the box. "A robot? Oh my gosh, I've wanted this forever." Maya stood with arms crossed by the kitchen door, watching her face caught between caution and helplessness in the face of her daughter's excitement. Ethan sat on the living room rug with Leah and opened the box. Colorful plastic pieces spilled out like treasure. Leah squealed and began sorting them immediately. "Papa!" She almost slipped, then corrected herself quickly. I mean, Uncle, do you know how to build this? Ethan froze, his heart hammering at the word, Papa, even if accidental. He nodded, voice low. I'll learn with you. You're the chief engineer. I'm just the assistant. Leah giggled. Okay, but you have to follow orders. The two bent close over the pieces. Leah chattered non-stop, explaining gears, batteries, and wires. Ethan listened intently, offering small suggestions, but letting her lead. He realized he was as engrossed as a child, forgetting the outside world. Now and then, his eyes flicked toward Maya sitting on the sofa with a magazine, pretending to read while sneaking glances. There was worry in her eyes and a softness when Leah laughed so much. After more than an hour, the robot stood assembled. Simple as it was, for Leah, it was a marvel. She flipped the switch, and the machine clattered forward across the rug. Leah squealed in delight, dancing around it. We have to name it, Ethan said. What should it be called? Leah tilted her head, thought for a moment, then smiled. Bridge. Because it connects people. Ethan froze. The name struck like prophecy. He looked at Maya and saw her eyes flicker, though she quickly turned away, fiddling with her phone. Leah hugged the robot tightly. Uncle Ethan, come again next time. We'll upgrade Bridge so it can sing. Of course, Ethan whispered, his throat tight. Inside him, something took root. This was the family he once dreamed of right here, and he would never let go again. By late afternoon, sunlight faded through the small windows, casting warm golden streaks across the room. Leah was still absorbed in Bridge, switching it on and off and making adjustments. Ethan sat beside her, quietly watching, a peace filling him he had never known. In that moment, the emptiness of his past was apparent. The cold penthouse nights, the pointless business trips, the hollow million-dollar deals. They were all masks covering what he lacked: children's laughter, the loving gaze of the woman who once trusted him. Leah suddenly looked up with innocent curiosity. Uncle Ethan, when you were little, did you have anyone to build robots with? He fell silent for a beat, then shook his head softly. No, I grew up mostly on my own, but now I'm lucky I have a brilliant engineer like you as my friend. Leah's smile glowed as she leaned against him. The simple, unthinking intimacy made his eyes sting. If only he had been brave 7 years ago, this moment could have come long ago. From the kitchen, Maya called, Leah, bath time. You have school tomorrow. Yes, Mama, Leah answered, then turned to Ethan and whispered, Don't leave, okay? I want you here when I'm done. Ethan nodded, gently ruffling her hair. I'll wait. Leah skipped off toward the bathroom. Silence settled, leaving Ethan and Maya. She stepped out, arms folded, leaning against the doorway, watching him. You made her very happy today, Maya said, carrying surprise and distance. That's all I want, Ethan replied, eyes still on the door Leah had gone through. Maya stayed quiet for a moment, then sighed. Ethan, I still don't trust you. I can't forget 7 years just because of a few hours of play. But I saw Leah's smile, and I can't deny she needs more than just me. Ethan turned to her, eyes earnest. I don't ask for forgiveness right away, only for the chance to prove I won't run this time. Maya gave a faint, dry smile, but with less ice than before. We'll see how long you last. Leah trusts easily, and I won't let anyone break that again. Ethan nodded, taking it as both a warning and a commitment. Leah's laughter rang from the bathroom, easing the tension. Ethan looked at Maya and murmured, Thank you for letting me in today. Just this one afternoon, I feel alive again. Maya said nothing, but for a fleeting instant, her eyes softened, not entirely closed as before. When Leah emerged, hair damp and falling on her shoulders, wearing star-printed pajamas, Ethan chuckled. She climbed onto the sofa, hugging Bridge, then leaned against him with innocent ease. Uncle Ethan, she mumbled sleepily, next time, help me make a robot that can talk. It will say, family never leaves each other. Ethan shivered. He bent down, kissed her damp hair, and whispered, I promise. Family will never leave again. Maya watched, her eyes glistening. She turned away, but inside, something cracked, not anger, but the wall she had built for so long. The week that followed, Ethan began learning how to rearrange his life. To the outside world, he was still the successful businessman, the man of big deals, of keynote speeches before hundreds of investors. But inside, his priorities had shifted. Every meeting, every trip was weighed against one question: would it cost him time with Leah? On Monday morning, he entered a glass-walled boardroom on the 40th floor. Caldwell was already at the head of the table, eyes sharp as steel. "Ethan," he said bluntly, "we're on the brink of an international deal. Yamamoto Group wants full control, but they need you in Tokyo for at least 2 years. If you sign, the company triples its value. If not—" Caldwell trailed off, gaze heavy with implication. Ethan sat down, staring silently at the city skyline. Tokyo, 2 years. 2 years meant missing Leah's early childhood entirely. He drew a deep breath, then spoke with finality. "I'm not going anywhere. Let Jessica take the lead. I'll stay on as advisor from Chicago." The room thickened with tension. Caldwell narrowed his eyes. "You've changed. Once, you'd sacrifice everything to win. Now you sound like a weak man." Ethan met his gaze. "If you weigh this company against my daughter, I choose my daughter. That's not a weakness. That's knowing what truly matters." Murmurs rippled among the board members. Caldwell's grip tightened on his folder, displeasure evident. But Ethan knew this time he would not bend. That evening, he picked Leah up from art class. She ran out, clutching a drawing, a family of 3 standing before a house with wings. Ethan's chest clenched when she said, simply, "I drew you too. This is Mama, this is me, and this is Uncle Ethan. All 3 of us are in the house." His voice broke as he nodded. "It's beautiful, Leah. Thank you for giving me a place in your picture." But not everything came easily. Another afternoon, dropping Leah home, Ethan found Maya waiting at the door. "What are you doing, Ethan?" she demanded. "Showing up every day, making her attached only to disappear again someday. I can't let that happen." He stood still, then answered slowly, "I understand your fear, but I am changing. Today, Caldwell asked me to move to Tokyo for 2 years. I refused. I chose to stay here." For a moment, Maya faltered. Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed guarded. "I'll believe it when I see it. Long term. Leah deserves stability, not a cloud that drifts in and out." Ethan nodded. He knew the real test wasn't in boardrooms or contracts. It was in showing patience, day after day. In the following days, Ethan began practicing what he had never done before, slowing down. He walked Leah to school in the mornings, waiting at the gate with other parents, awkward, unfamiliar, but strangely grounding. He was used to signing billion-dollar contracts, but now, listening to Leah chatter about her drawings made him feel truly alive. One afternoon, Leah tugged his hand, eyes sparkling. "Uncle Ethan, Friday's our school play. I'm the star. You have to come watch." Ethan knelt to meet her eyes, gripping her hand tight. "I promise. Nothing's more important than seeing you shine." During dinner with Maya and Leah that night, he fumbled a soup ladle, spilling drops across the table. Leah burst out laughing. "Uncle Ethan cooks worse than I." Even Maya couldn't hide a smile, though she quickly masked it with a shake. Still, Ethan caught a fleeting glimmer of softness in her eyes, a light he hadn't seen in years. Yet challenges pressed on. Work continued to claw at him. One evening, while he and Leah were adding wings to their robot bridge, his phone buzzed Caldwell's number. Ethan hesitated, then pressed decline. Leah looked up, her green eyes curious. "Why didn't you answer?" Ethan ruffled her hair, smiling. "Because I'm busy with the most important work, playing with the chief engineer." Leah giggled brightly while Maya's hands paused over the dishes in the kitchen. She glanced out, lips pressed, unsure if she felt anger or something else. But Ethan knew. A few sweet moments weren't enough to erase the past. To prove himself, he would have to face it fully. One late night, with Leah asleep, he sat across from Maya in the living room. His voice was low, heavy. "Maya, I know you can't forgive me yet. I can't forgive myself either. But please, give me a roadmap. Tell me what I must do to prove I won't leave again." She stayed silent for a long while, then finally said quietly, There is no roadmap, Ethan. This isn't a company. There's no business plan. There's only one thing. Each day you stay, each promise you keep, Leah will believe more. And I'll watch. Please don't ask me to give you steps. You'll have to learn how to be a father on your own. I won't write the manual for you. Ethan nodded. He understood. This wasn't a race to win, but a trial of patience one day at a time. As he left that night, Maya stood in the doorway. Her eyes were still cautious, but less cold. And Ethan knew. The road back was long, but he had finally laid down the first stones. November in Chicago was knife-cold, the wind from Lake Michigan cutting through the streets. Ethan was working in his study that night when his phone buzzed relentlessly. The screen showed an unfamiliar hospital number. His chest tightened. "Mr. Walker?" A nurse's voice. "Urgent. We need to reach Dr. Johnson's family. She collapsed in the OR after a 15-hour surgery. We've stabilized her, but she needs someone here immediately." Ethan shot to his feet, nearly flinging the phone aside. Maya collapsed? After surgery? His mind roared with panic. He grabbed his coat and bolted, his car tearing through the dark streets, the howling wind urging him faster. At the hospital, he ran straight into the emergency unit. Maya lay pale on the bed, wires and monitors surrounding her. Ethan's knees weakened. A doctor explained, "She's exhausted. 15 hours of surgery, plus days of little sleep. No major damage, but she must rest." Ethan sank into the chair, clasping her cold hand. His voice cracked. "You always carry everything alone. Maya, please. Let me stay this time. Don't fight by yourself anymore." He stayed through the night. Near dawn, Maya's eyelids fluttered open beneath the dim light. She saw him first. Surprise flickered, then her brow furrowed weakly. "What are you doing here?" Ethan tried to smile, tears burning his eyes. "Being where I should have been 7 years ago beside you." She tried to turn away, but her eyes betrayed the tremor of emotion. Her voice was a whisper. "Leah, she's at home. I called Mrs. Patterson, the neighbor. She's with Leah now. She's safe. You need to rest." A tear slipped down Maya's cheek. Perhaps from exhaustion, she no longer had the strength to raise her walls. In that moment, Ethan glimpsed the woman she once was, the girl in their tiny apartment, sharing instant noodles and trusting him wholeheartedly. He lowered his head, kissed her hand gently, and whispered, "I promise, Maya. This time, I won't let you fight alone. I'll stay." 2 days later, Maya was moved to a regular room. Leah arrived with Mrs. Patterson. The moment she saw her mother, she sprinted to the bed, clinging tight, tears spilling. "Mama, I was so scared. Mrs. Patterson said you fainted. I thought you were leaving me." Maya hugged her fiercely, soothing her. "No, Leah. I won't leave you. Mama just worked too hard. I'll rest now." Ethan stood nearby, heart aching. He saw Leah's fragility, the brave little girl who feared abandonment. He knew he had carved that fear into her life. While Leah doodled quietly at a small table, Maya turned to him, her voice hoarse with fatigue. "Do you see? This is why I can't collapse. She only has me. If I fall, she has no one." Ethan stepped closer, eyes resolute. "No, Maya. She has me too. I was wrong to leave you alone for 7 years. But from now on, you don't have to bear it all. Let me carry it with you." Maya held his gaze for a long time. In her tired eyes, conflict churned. Finally, she sighed softly. "I don't know how much I can trust you, but at least this time, you were here." The simple words felt like a mountain conquered. Ethan didn't rush or press her hand, he only nodded, eyes steady. "And I'll keep being here, day after day, until you believe." That afternoon, Leah sat on the bed, chattering about their robot bridge while Maya listened with a faint smile. Ethan stood at the window, watching the restless city below. Cars and sirens roared outside, but for him, the proper rhythm of life was here, the sound of Leah's laughter, the fragile breath of Maya resting behind him. Maya drifted off to sleep when night fell, and Leah curled up at her side. Ethan drew his chair close, keeping vigil over both. For the first time in years, he felt he belonged not in boardrooms, not beneath camera flashes, but in this small hospital room with the woman who once loved him and the daughter he had just found again. Closing his eyes, he whispered a vow to himself, "No matter what comes, I will never let either of you fear again. I lost 7 years, but the rest of my life I'll spend making it right." Maya was discharged after a week. Ethan personally brought her and Leah home, carrying a small gift, a glass vase with fresh sunflowers, the flowers she had loved back in college. Maya froze briefly when she saw them, then set the vase quietly on the kitchen counter without a word. Life in the small apartment returned to its rhythms, except now Ethan was a steady presence. He picked Leah up from school, ate dinner with them, and sometimes helped Maya wash dishes. Yet the air remained delicate. Every glance, every word, threatened to graze an old wound. One night, after Leah had gone to bed, Ethan and Maya sat in the living room under the glow of a single lamp. Silence pressed in, broken only by the hum of traffic outside. Ethan drew a breath, summoning all his courage. "Maya, there's something I need to admit, something I never dared to say before." She lifted her head, wary. His voice trembled, yet carried resolve. "I listened to every voicemail you left after I disappeared. Every sob, every plea. I heard them all, but I didn't answer. Not because I didn't care. I was terrified. Terrified that if I heard your voice, I'd run back, drop everything, and then you'd resent me for dragging you into an unstable future. I convinced myself that silence was protection. But really, it was cowardice." Maya sat still, her lips quivering. Ethan pressed on, his throat tight. "I know saying this might make you hate me more, but I can't let you believe I stopped loving you. The truth is, I loved you so much, I feared I wasn't enough, and that fear destroyed everything." The room sank into silence. Maya clutched her teacup, eyes shimmering. At last, she whispered, "You think I needed to hear that now? After 7 years of stitching my life back together? I don't expect forgiveness," Ethan said urgently. "I just need you to know the truth. So if one day you find it in your heart to open up again, at least you'll know the love never left." Maya turned away, a single tear falling. She murmured, almost to herself, "Love that abandons is still abandonment. And Leah, she's the proof of that emptiness." Ethan bowed his head, saying nothing. He knew excuses would only reopen wounds. All he had left was patience and showing up, day after day. That night, Maya went to bed early. Ethan remained on the couch, the lamplight casting shadows across his weary but resolute face. He knew love still lingered between them, but the boundary between forgiveness and pain was fragile, ready to shatter at the slightest slip. In the days after his confession, the atmosphere shifted subtly. Maya no longer avoided him, yet neither did she welcome him entirely. Between them stretched an invisible line, fragile, but strangely, also the thread holding them together. Ethan noticed every small detail. He knocked before entering the kitchen. He let Maya choose her seat at the table. He never imposed decisions. He understood that control was the only thing that had carried her through 7 years alone, and he could not take it from her again. One weekend evening, Leah insisted that all three go to the park. It was the first time they appeared together in public as a complete family. Leah darted between them, clutching Maya's hand with one and Ethan's with the other. Strangers passing by smiled, seeing nothing unusual. To them, it was just a family. But to Maya and Ethan, the moment was bittersweet happiness edged with the fear of impermanence. When Leah climbed onto the swing, Ethan pushed gently, her laughter filling the air. Maya sat on a bench, her gaze softening as she watched. Ethan joined her quietly. Silence hung between them, not heavy, but alive. At length, Maya spoke, her voice low. "You say you still love me. But can that love endure reality? When Leah is sick, when I'm exhausted, when life is nothing but bills and responsibilities." Ethan turned to her, eyes unwavering. "If you let me, I want to carry it with you. Not out of guilt, but because I truly want to be here. Love isn't late-night promises. It's dishes, school runs, and making dinner. I want all of it." Maya said nothing, her eyes flickering. Inside her, the fragile line wavered between the longing to trust again and the fear of betrayal. She knew opening her heart might let the old wounds bleed. Yet her heart whispered Ethan was different now, that he was genuinely trying. When Leah dozed off on Ethan's shoulder that night, he carried her slowly down the narrow hallway. Maya followed, watching his silhouette with a sudden lump in her throat. For 7 years, she had been both father and mother, but this simple moment, a man carrying their daughter, safe in his arms, brought her a strange, unfamiliar relief. In her heart, the line between anger and forgiveness, between past and present, grew thinner, and Maya knew, sooner or later, she would have to choose. Winter came early in Chicago. Cold gusts whipped between the glass towers, frosting the windows of the small apartment where 3 people gradually learned to live together. Ethan moved a portion of his things into Maya's home. He did it quietly, without fanfare or announcement, just leaving a few shirts in the closet, a toothbrush by the sink. Maya neither objected nor consented, but that silence was enough for Ethan to understand he was being accepted, bit by bit. Leah adapted the easiest. She quickly got used to having an extra companion for her little science projects. Every night after homework, she would pull Ethan to the table and show him her new designs, mini wind turbines, rubber band-powered cars. Ethan listened intently, sometimes pretending not to understand, so Leah patiently explained and tested the ideas. Laughter filled the apartment, a sound that had been rare when it had been just the 2 of them. Maya watched everything, her heart warming and yet fearful. She knew Leah was starting to see Ethan as a father, the very thing the child had longed for. For that reason, Maya was even more cautious. She whispered inwardly, "Leah will never forgive him if he leaves again, nor will I." One Sunday evening, they cooked together. Maya chopped vegetables, Ethan handled the roasting chicken, and Leah mixed the salad. The tiny kitchen was crowded but lively. At the table, Leah raised her glass of milk solemnly and announced, "I want to celebrate our new family. Now I have Mama and Daddy. I feel thrilled." Maya froze, the fork suspended midair. Ethan watched, his eyes soft, waiting for her reaction. A long moment passed. Maya set down her fork and touched her daughter's hand. "Leah, take it slow, okay? Things are still changing, but Mama promises you will always have love, no matter what." Leah pressed her lips together, then turned to Ethan. "Daddy promises too, right?" Ethan squeezed the small hand gently. "Daddy promises. This time, Daddy isn't going anywhere." The words clenched Maya's chest. She said nothing, but a thin thread of hope threaded through her gaze. In the last days of the year, snow began to fall thickly. The city donned a white coat, sparkling under the streetlights. Ethan bought Leah a small sled, and Maya pulled out an old knitted outfit her mother had made. One weekend afternoon, the 3 of them went to the nearby park. Leah shouted with delight as she slid down the hill, her laughter cutting through the bitter cold. Maya stood beside her, watching, and felt an unfamiliar calm wash over her. Ethan sat nearby with a cup of hot cocoa and said quietly, "I've never seen her this happy." Maya looked at him, then at Leah. In her eyes, suspicion remained, but it had given more room to trust. She murmured, "Maybe. This time you really want to stay?" "Not maybe," Ethan replied firmly. "I want to be here, not as a guest, but as family." His words stunned Maya into silence. She had learned to rely only on herself for 7 years, laying each brick of a life made for 2. Now, the thought of another companion was both sweet and terrifying. But watching Leah rush over to hug Ethan and laugh aloud, Maya realized her heart had an answer. That evening, after Leah fell asleep, Ethan and Maya sat in the living room. Snow still drifted outside. The lamp's warm glow made the room cozy. Ethan took an old sheet of paper from his pocket, the flying house drawing Leah had once given him. "Do you remember when she said that families would never be separated if there were a flying house?" Ethan laid the paper on the table, voice thick. "I can't build a flying house, but I can build a real home, right here, if you allow me." Maya looked at the drawing, then met his eyes. A long silence passed. Finally, she placed her hand on his, the first time she had taken the initiative in years. "Let's try again, Ethan. But this time, there can be no room for abandonment." He gripped her hand as if holding his whole life. "I swear." Outside, the snow fell without pause, but in the small apartment, warmth spread. Leah shifted in her sleep and smiled faintly, as if sensing that tomorrow she would wake in a complete family, not perfect, but a new beginning that would be steady and truly theirs.